And this is the UP Power Podcast with Keegan Cooper and Kevin McNulty, fueled by Dunkin' today. Of course, they are not a sponsor, but we are great patrons of theirs. And we are excited to be here and talk about a great day for NMU on Friday, introducing Dave Shyiak as a new head hockey coach. We've said it 1,000 times, but only the fourth head coach in the history of the program, 48 years, 4 head coaches. That is darn impressive in itself, but I think, Keegan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was impressed on Friday with everything Shyiak had to say, the stories he told of his previous stops here in Marquette, and I'm looking forward to the future for the Wildcats.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. I was impressed with what he said and kind of the route he took. You know, opening press conferences sometimes can be difficult, right? What do you say? What do you not say? But I was impressed with, you know, how he carried on and the things that he said. And I think the big message that I took away was he was a player here on a national championship team, I might add.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's had that experience of winning at the highest level. He's coached here.
Winning at the highest level in Marquette.
In Marquette.
Yeah.
You know, and having that experience, now coming back to a place that, you know, was really, and we talked about this, was really a homecoming for him. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for him, but also a great thing for Northern Michigan hockey. Having someone that's, you know, been in those positions, been in those games, been on that, you know, rink, had a lot, you know, has a lot of history with Rick Comley. Rick Comley was his coach. So I think that relationship is going to blossom, and I think Dave Shyiak's going to do some great things here for Northern Michigan.
Yeah, well, talking to Dave Ellis middle of last week when the hire became official, that's one of the things he brought up is how tight him and Rick Comley are, and how that led to Shyiak being the next head coach. And it was not long after Grant Patolny stepped down that Shyiak's name was floated out there, and it made a lot of sense. You said that on Friday. It just makes sense. The next portion for Shyiak and the Cats is to build a roster. I personally don't expect them to be very good next year. I think that's okay. As you try and build toward the future. But the other thing with the transfer portal is you can turn things around a lot quicker than you used to be able to. Now with this window that Shyiak has from now until October 11th, when the Wildcats get on the ice for the first time in game action, is there a ton he can do to get high-level talent over to Marquette? Probably not. So that's why I don't have high expectations for them this upcoming year. But after that, you know, it's a guy who came from St. Cloud State, and you have to remember he's the associate head coach. He's pretty high up on the staff. They were at the Frozen Four just 3 years ago, and Shyiak was there. So he's been recruiting in this environment and had success in this environment. 2021 was, you know, the year of NIL. Actually, we just hit the 3-year anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling that said, yes, college athletes can get paid for their name, image, and likeness. So that was thrown into there after the portal became commonplace for players during COVID. So, like I said, he's had success at St. Cloud as the associate head coach, of course, but that requires you to do a lot of the recruiting out of the portal in that job, build relationships with players, and he's done that with the Huskies, like I said, at the Frozen Four just 3 years ago. So he's been coaching in this environment. I know he hasn't been a head coach in 10 years. That was at Alaska Anchorage. And another thing, takeaway from Friday, I was very impressed with what he had to say about his 8 years as a head coach at Alaska Anchorage. One of the toughest jobs in America.
Yeah.
I think we can all admit to that. You think it's hard to recruit to the UP. How hard is it to recruit high-level talent to Anchorage, Alaska? And he did that, had moderate success there, kind of got a raw deal for a lot of his time there, stuck it out for 8 years, 8 seasons. He was the head coach there. Now he gets another stab at it, and I'm really excited to see how it pans out. Like I mentioned, probably not going to happen overnight, though.
Yeah, no, it's going to be with any program, and I think when any new head coach comes in a program, doesn't matter the sport, doesn't matter what it is, there is a building process, right? In Shyiak's favor, he kind of gets to build from a clean slate, right? Now they have some returning players and things
It's
like
very
that.
clean.
Yeah, and they have some returning players, and they have people that they'll have back. And I think for him, and he mentioned this, during the press conference, I have to build relationships with the guys that are here first, and then continue to bring in guys that buy into the same vision and the same process and the same method that Shyiak has and wants for Northern Michigan hockey. And I think that almost, being a new head coach, I think that almost gives him a slight advantage of, I can, maybe not this season, be super selective because I've got to get a roster so we can play. But as he builds the program over, let's say, the next 2 to 3 years, he can be selective of, okay, I got to get these guys that all have the same idea and all buy in, and we can get Northern Michigan hockey back to here. And he, he went into detail, and he said it's not just me, it's not just the coaching staff, it's not just the players, it's the community, it's the fans, it's the people that come to the games. They want to fill the Barry. They want to fill that.
It's Rick Comley's #1 goal.
Yeah.
Every Friday and Saturday. During the fall and winter.
And I think when you have a head coach who is in tune with that because he knows the community, and what I found so interesting is all the people that he knew and got to share conversations with being back.
That's what I said. I loved hearing those stories. Shout out Ponzi.
Yeah, Ponzi.
The super fan. They go way back to when Shyiak was a player. He told that story about Ponzi getting him a demolition job over in Ishpeming one day when he was trying to make some money over the summer. Yeah. I really liked hearing that. And then my old friend Gino, you get that story as well of a guy he knows from back in his day in Marquette. And he hasn't lived in Marquette in 19 years. Since 2005. He hasn't been here, but he still has all those connections. That was really fun to hear. But yeah, when the rubber meets the road, it's about who you got on the ice. You can't have a good team without good players. This upcoming season, the roster might look a little bit, below, what the standards are at NMU. But give it time, and I think, Shyiak will work it out. It was good to see a couple players in attendance that will be playing for him next year. Jacob Peterson and Ryland Van Unen were there, I believe. So they're figuring it all out over the summer. I mentioned not a lot of time to get it together, 3 months here before they take the ice. So we'll see what they come up with, but the future, looking toward the future, another thing Dave Ellis mentioned to me, which I agree with, is that Rick Comley didn't make this hire just to have Shyiak in for a year or two and then find the guy they really want. No, this is the guy Comley wants. And Rick said it to me on Friday. Never did I think I'd be hiring a football coach and a hockey coach when I came back, but here he is. He got the opportunity to do it. I'd be surprised if Comley's the athletic director for a whole lot longer, maybe 3, 4, 5 years more here. So he wants Dave Shyiak to be the head hockey coach when he leaves as his role as athletic director. So there's no reason why he shouldn't be, and we'll find out, how it works itself out. The other thing I think is worth mentioning, coming over from St. Cloud State, that's the NCHC. That's a top 2 or 3 conference in the country. He saw what it took to win in that conference. Yeah. And taking, some of that into the CCHA where, probably max 2 teams will make the national tournament next year. That's what recent history will tell us. Tech was the only team a year ago when they won the Mason Cup and went on to lose to Boston College in the first round. So that's the truth. He didn't beat around the bush there. We want to give ourselves a chance to be in the national tournament, which either takes a great regular season or winning the Mason Cup like Tech did last year to punch their ticket. So we're going to find out. He's already building a staff, too, which is obviously very important. Andy Contoy's another NMU Wildcat coming back to Marquette, who played at NMU when Shyiak was an assistant. He's been at Youngstown, that's the USHL, I believe, for the past couple of years. So it's amateur hockey, things like that. He knows what a lot of these players want, and what a lot of these players want is to go on and play pro hockey and get eyeballs on them. Yeah. And I think Contoys can help do that here in Marquette.
No, yeah, definitely. I think it will be interesting to see. Could we see an all-former Wildcat staff?
Potentially.
For Northern Michigan hockey, right?
Because you're only going to add one or two more besides Contoys.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see, but having that experience and being able to help these guys come in here, play for Northern Michigan, be successful, and then also get eyes on them so they can pursue their goals beyond that. And I think something else, and we kind of touched on this, and Rick Comley hired Dave Shyiak because it's not a stop on Shyiak's journey. And we heard this from the fans that were in attendance.
That too.
It's a destination.
That's encouraging to hear for fans, certainly.
For fans, yeah. And that to me leads to believe, hey, Dave Shyiak wants to be here, and the fans,
he wants to retire as the head coach at NMU. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, which I think will help fill seats, right?
Absolutely.
So that was, I think, for me, reassuring to say, hey, the fans are in favor of Dave Shyiak. And they're like, just from listening to the press conference, he really is buying into being here and has a goal and has a process and is going to do that. Adding people to a staff that are going to be able to help the athletes that come in here accomplish their goals, not just being successful. We want Northern Michigan hockey to win, right? We want all the hockey programs that we cover to win up here, But how do they go about doing that? And it's adding those pieces. I want to see an all-former Wildcat staff. You heard it here first. I think that'd be an interesting thing because you don't see that anywhere else.
No, and it's very possible. Like I mentioned, there's no telling that it might not be any other way. So, Shyiak will keep filling out the staff. I assume we'll hear more next week, perhaps after the holiday. But my other favorite part of the press conference for us that airs the rivalry games on our networks every year is that he wants to beat Tech, and he knows Joe Sean.
Yeah.
They go back. Mm-hmm. So those games, there might be a little bit more juice in the building that a former Wildcat is on one of the benches, plus Joe Sean, he spent most of his career here in the UP, so he knows the rivalry so well. On top of that. So I'm looking forward to that. We get an exhibition on October 5th, so we get to feel it out. You remember they played that exhibition in January last year? It was kind of weird. No Pietolas on the ice for Tech.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we're going to get on October 5th, but obviously we'll be there. We'll be checking it out. And then, of course, the 4 matchups during the regular season. We'll see how those play themselves out. But Tech's also looking pretty good for next year. Chase Pietola gets drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins at the Sphere on Saturday, so really exciting for Chase as he'll certainly be coming back to Houghton and is actually spending time at their camp this week. So 4th round pick in the NHL draft for Chase Pietola. So he'll have that little icon on the roster next year with the Pittsburgh Penguins logo. Convenient colors for Tech. It'll fit right in on there. 111th overall selection in the 4th round, like I mentioned. And, he's going into his sophomore season. He appeared in all 40 games as a freshman. Like I said, he was a mainstay for the Huskies. He'll be back, and that's, a big piece of Tech's success last season was Chase Pietola. So really, really stoked for him.
Yeah, exciting for him. Don't quote me, but 3 goals, 19 assists in his freshman year for 22 points. He was a big part of the Huskies and their success, and it's going to be exciting to see what he does. I know Jerry Tudor will be happy. He's a Penguins fan, so get some locals that'll be headed that way. The Huskies are, I think it's going to be fun to watch them. And speaking of that rivalry, I think that those games this year especially will just be amped up a little bit more, which will be exciting to see. Exciting to see Chase in his sophomore season and see what he does.
Oh, for
Taking
sure.
On I probably
You nailed it, by the way. I just looked it up. 19 assists, 3 goals, 8th nationally among freshman D-men in assists.
Well, there we go. Yeah.
So that's pretty much all you can ask of a D-man. And how about Michigan State getting the number 2 overall draft pick. Artem Levshunov going to the Chicago Blackhawks. I'm really excited to watch him. Man, watching him at the GLI, Tech kind of had their way in that for parts of that game. Of course, it went all the way to a shootout. But Levshunov is such a presence on the ice. And you got some of those guys, especially D-men who were drafted over the weekend in Las Vegas. He's 6'2", 215, Like I said, he's a real presence.
Don't meet him on the ice because he's a
No, you don't want to. And on top of that, for Tech, also a couple guys who weren't drafted but will be going to development camp in the NHL this week. Isaac Gordon will be at camp with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Matthew Campbell as well, spending time with the Philadelphia Flyers. So,
and Isaac Flash Gordon, that's just a name.
You're talking about great freshman seasons.
Yeah. Isaac Gordon, that's just a name that belongs in the NHL, right? Isaac Flash Gordon, I can see it now. Great freshman season for him too. Matthew Campbell, another great player for the Huskies. So, it's important for those guys. Get to the developmental camps, come back, have your next season in college, and then find yourself in the NHL draft, getting drafted.
Yeah, and that's how it works sometimes. Even first rounders will go back to college. There was even talk about Macklin Celebrini. Will he go back to BU? He's not going to do that. He's going to go home and play for the Sharks. Right, Noel?
Yes!
Sharks are looking up in the future
Sharks
with Macklin Celebrini. So it was a fun weekend. How about the Sphere for a venue for the NHL draft? I really like the NHL kind of asserting itself. Obviously, what the NFL has done with its draft, drawing fans, millions of fans over the course of 4 days, most recently in Detroit this spring. Well, the NHL says, all right, it may not be as big of a draw for fans to come out and watch guys get selected, but we're going to do it in the Sphere. And it's going to look awesome, and it did.
It did, yeah. I mean, that just I think speaks to where the NHL is headed and how much it's, continued to grow. They continued growth.
Well, they were the first league to put a team in Vegas.
Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah. I mean,
and what did the rest of the leagues do? Follow suit, and it might be the MLB might be the next organization to put a team there.
Yeah. Where would the next? Where do we need a professional team? Probably.
In baseball?
Yeah, in baseball. Where do we need it?
I would put Charlotte, Nashville, and Vegas up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could throw Portland at me, Portland,
Oregon.
I think that would be fun. These teams that have big time, AAA teams and also have other pro teams. I think of Charlotte, the White Sox AAA affiliate is there. It's a gorgeous stadium. And of course they have the Panthers and the Hurricanes in Raleigh, and the Hornets in Charlotte as well. So they could have a baseball team. I think Vegas would be also smart for the MLB if they go to 32 teams like the NFL and NHL. Yeah, we'll find out. But I thought it was really cool, the draft at the Sphere.
Yeah.
They nailed it.
Probably
there.
top 5.
Gary Bettman getting some good PR for once. After the Panthers trophy ceremony was interesting. And the Panthers parade in South Florida for a hockey team, I thought they did a pretty nice job. And again, the cup going in the ocean, I love watching the cup go all over. Roberto Luongo was eating pasta out of it.
Getting the Parmesan cheese. Yeah, I mean, those are, some of the best moments, post season of seeing where it goes and stuff like that. I actually watched a documentary on the cup the other day and how they change the rings once they get filled and then they slide them up, and how the cup used to just be
It's the greatest trophy in sports.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
It's not even close. I remember being 9 years old when Blackhawks won it and standing outside all day because we knew John McDonough, who was from my neighborhood in Chicago, was going to bring it. So we were standing there all day, I think at a baseball game at like 10 a.m., and finally, like 6 p.m., they brought the cup in. There's just a bunch of kids, me being one of them, that were like, oh my gosh, the Stanley Cup.
You get the cup for a day.
And it's so cool.
What are you
I never got the cup.
But if you were to get the cup, what are you doing with the cup?
I don't know. You have to take it out everywhere you go.
Fair.
You got to have one of the guys. They don't need the gloves anymore because the cup's going to get dirty.
Yeah.
But it's coming around everywhere I go. That's true. That's a good point. I should figure that out for when I win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to bring it.
I'm eating Cocoa Crisp in the morning. That's how I'm starting my day. Just a big old bowl.
Okay.
Half a gallon of milk, Cocoa Crisp.
Like the baseball player?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Probably, I'd probably just eat out of it all day. And everything goes in there. Doesn't matter what it is.
So that was cool. We are coming up on 4th of July, so not a lot of sports action going on here in the UP. Some Legion baseball. It was a great tournament in Marinette this past weekend. Escanaba gets all the way to the final. Green Bay Southwest, they're a really good team because we ran highlights from the Gladstone game on Friday, and then they take down Escanaba. But those couple of teams in Legion ball, Marquette Blues defeat Gladstone last night. They're playing really well, and I like that a couple of the Bay College guys that we covered during the spring, their best team in program history, Tyler Darmagray and Aiden Cretin playing for Gladstone. On top of that, you got a couple guys from the Marquette Blues that are playing at Bay as well. So some pretty good baseball we've been able to watch over the past couple weeks, and we'll continue to throughout the summer.
Yeah, no, I love it. Legion baseball is, you don't get it that much in the UP because the season is so short, and then it starts to get cold again. But we got some really talented players up here in the UP, so it's exciting to see them kind of get back out, especially those guys that played at Bay College, and we get to see a little bit more of them in the summer. And then softball too, Kevin. I mean, that up here has been exciting to watch, and I know we've got softball coming up, some big tournaments and things like that, and we'll be looking at those teams.
Big time tournament this weekend, District 11 major softball hosting a statewide tournament. So, I mean, there's only two real official Little League programs, districts here in the UP, that being around Esky and in Marquette. So District 11 is hosting teams from all over the state this weekend. They're coming up to Marquette to play a whole tournament at Kauffman Sports Complex. So we're going to find out more about that. We'll be out there all weekend, so that should be fun for softball players, knowing they're going up against teams from all over coming here to Marquette to play. It's going to bring great business to town this 4th of July weekend, and on top of that, you see some really great players out there.
See some great softball, see some great baseball here as we wrap up summer. We're in July now, which is crazy to me.
I know. It is flying by, and before we know it, we'll be talking high school football again. Only about 10 days removed from the UP football All-Star game in Marquette, which we talked a bunch about last week, which was tons of fun. Another baseball team we have to talk about is the Milwaukee Brewers.
Plenty of good baseball.
In first place, more than 50 wins now, just 2 days into the month of July. Last night, it was a bummer in Colorado, starting out a 4-game series. They fall 8-7 in 10 innings. It was interesting keeping tabs on that game because they were going back and forth. A summer night in Denver, the ball's going to fly. It absolutely did. Brewers came out on the wrong side of it. Pat Murphy gets tossed in the middle of the game because I agreed with him. There was the call that Joey Ortiz was out of the base path. He wasn't, and made it to first base safely, but they called him out on it, and that's what got Pat Murphy run. But I don't think, one loss over the course of a baseball season doesn't, tell the whole story. They got 3 more games against the Rockies. Would not be surprised if they win all 3 of them the rest of this week. But Chicago Cubs come to town this weekend. They take 2 of 3. They hit their 5th grand slam in 8 games. How much fun is that for the fans going out to see Brewers baseball? You're like, okay, there's like almost a 50-50 shot. We're going to see a grand slam today. Jackson Churio had one of them in that series against the Cubs. They're a fun team to watch, especially all the question marks that they had going into the season with Craig Counsell leaving to go manage the Cubs after being in Milwaukee. I think it was a great move to just elevate Pat Murphy, who's the bench coach under Craig Counsell, who he was also a manager in college baseball for many years at Arizona State. So he's been the manager, not in the MLB, an older guy in terms of, first-time manager, but he's done a great job with this group. And then they trade Corbin Burns. You're like, wow. Yeah. So they're taking a step back, right?
Yeah.
it hasn't been that. You get Joey Ortiz in that deal. He's been, coming on. And I'm just impressed. Rhys Hoskins comes over from the Phillies as well. He was hurt for a lot of this season. Hopefully he stays healthy the rest of the way. But he's added something to their lineup as well, and they're just cooking. I'd be shocked if they don't win the Central.
Yeah, no, they are, and they're doing. I mean, the grand slams are nice. I like watching them. Using the small ball, right? We look at the last couple of their games. Laying down bunts, moving the guy that turns into an error.
That's what I'm saying about Pat Murphy. Coached in college baseball for 25 years almost. They did that a lot.
Yeah, you start to see that translating to MLB, and if they don't, I don't see them like you said. I don't see them not winning it. And that I mean,
there's a long way to go, but you look at the National League. Of course, you have the Dodgers. Yeah. The most talented team, but what do they like to do in the playoffs?
Yeah, choke.
Is choke. So why can't they choke against the Brewers?
Yeah.
And then you have the Phillies, who
are
probably definitely have the second best roster in the NL. They have the starting pitching. So you would give those two teams an edge over the Brewers. Probably those are going to be your division champions. Who knows what's going on with the wild card? Because everyone's in it, besides the Marlins and Rockies. Not kidding. Everyone else is in it. Even the last place Cubs are still in it. They're about 5 or 6 games under 500.
My poor Cardinals. I'm looking at them right now, and
but the Cardinals are playing decent baseball, hanging around 500, and that's really all you need in the National League to end up with one of those 3 wild cards.
Spots,
So when you look at the NL, it's definitely, right now, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Brewers. And I think the next step for the Brewers, they haven't had a ton of success as a franchise. I believe maybe only their single World Series appearance was in 1982 against the Cardinals when they were in the American League. So they've been to the playoffs a bunch the past 8 years. Next step is winning some series and knocking off the juggernauts that I just mentioned.
And we're halfway through the season now?
Yeah, almost exactly.
Halfway.
We're just over halfway.
Yeah, so I think it translates. You watch the Brewers, they're going to hit home runs, right? It's Major League Baseball, but the ability to execute the small ball, I think, goes kind of under the radar of, hey, they move a guy over, they bunt a guy over, and it turns into a run, or it turns into an error, which then everybody's safe and they steal a run out of it. Those are the things, especially when you get late into the season, and then especially in the postseason, if you're able to execute those, you're going to find yourself competing, for a World Series championship.
They play complete baseball a lot of the time, which I enjoyed seeing. They just brought up Eric Haas, and he has a go-ahead hit last night. Like that's just a culture that you can see. As it stands on July 2nd, Milwaukee is 50-35, so on pace for 97, 98 wins. 6-game lead right now on the Cardinals, who are 3 games over 500. Give them more credit. They deserve it. And then the Cubs are 11 games back, 39-46, and completely in the wild card.
Yeah,
that's just how it is in the National League right now. Now let's switch gears to the American League. The Tigers thought you would take a step this year, and now halfway through the season, that has not really been the case. They are 38-46, 15 games back of Cleveland. I think it hurts a little bit more when you're 8 games back at Kansas City, and going into this season, okay, the Tigers are going to be the team in the Central to take that step. You knew Minnesota was going to be around. They won the division last year, won a playoff series as well. You knew they were going to be in the mix. Cleveland is seemingly never down, even though they had a managerial change with Tito Francona retiring. Stephen Vogt comes in, and Jose Ramirez is the most consistent player in baseball. Playing in a small market like Cleveland, he's been so good. And then Josh Naylor hits daddy bombs,
just home run. Don't throw it.
So Cleveland's another team, kind of like the Brewers, where we didn't really see it coming, but they just play great baseball all the time. And then, Tigers hanging out in 4th place. Luckily, they're not going to finish in last in the Central.
That's true.
Sox have that locked up. You don't have to worry about that.
Congratulations.
They're only 30 games back of Cleveland.
Come get your participation ribbon right now. Yeah.
Yeah, what a joke in Chicago. But as for the Tigers, they're dealing with injuries and their number 1 draft picks. I'm talking Casey Mize, Spencer Torkelson over the past 5 years. You're still waiting for them. To show you something. Exactly. Spencer Torkelson goes down to Toledo for a little bit to try and figure it out. Casey Mize now going to go on the IL. Things aren't panning out, and I bet it's frustrating for Tigers fans to tune in and think that you're going to make some progress and getting better. You've been rebuilding for way too long. You get a manager who's won a World Series with Houston, A.J. Hinch, and right now is still not coming together. 8 games under 500 halfway through the year.
Yeah, frustrating, I think, is...
And the AL wild card doesn't exactly look like the NL wild card. You can't be 8 games under 500 and be in the mix right now. You really got to turn it around soon. Tigers at the Twins this week tonight. So, I mean, there's an opportunity to pick up some ground in the Central, but we'll see what happens. Now, as for the Brewers, they will go from Colorado to Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers this weekend. They'll be on Fox UP on Saturday. That'll be a fun game. I watched the Dodgers Saturday take on the Giants, of course, a rivalry game. Yeah. That was the game where the Dodgers scored 7 runs in the 11th inning to win it 14-7. You know, that was just a weird baseball game. And then the next day I'm watching the White Sox and the Rockies. Probably one of 3 people watching that game. It goes to 14 innings, and the Rockies win it. You rarely see a 14-inning game, but I think it was only around 3 hours in the end, which is like pitch clock. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah.
You play 14 innings in 3 hours. You would have thought that was impossible 2 years ago, but it's a little bit different now. Yeah, that's our check-in halfway through the Major League Baseball season. And Brewers are fun to watch, especially my team not playing well. So I prefer to watch the Brewers root them on, beat the Cubs like they did twice this weekend. So, you know, that's pretty cool. We'll keep tabs on them going forward. And I think the last item on our agenda is Kevin and Keegan talking soccer.
Yeah.
Because the U.S. of A.
is
the men's national team is a joke. They can't get out of the group stages in the Copa Americas. They lose last night to Uruguay, 1-0, and it's just I said it last night, a supreme disappointment for a team that came in to especially this tournament, but really starting at the World Cup in Qatar 2 years ago. Well, I guess December of 22 that was when they pushed it back. They go into that, you're feeling good. They win a couple games. You're looking at the pieces like, hey, wow, this really is the golden generation for U.S. soccer. Great, we feel good. Christian Pulisic is a dog, Captain America. I love that nickname. You're like, okay, we got something going here. Still questions about Greg Berhalter. Well, he's back for a second time. And now what happens in the Copa America, you only win the one game over Bolivia. You drop the one to Panama. We built their canal, and we lose to them.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bummer. And then losing to Uruguay last night. They were scoreboard watching during the game as Panama and Bolivia were playing to see, you know, what was the chance that they could draw or lose and still move on out of the group stage.
Yeah.
You can't be scoreboard watching.
Go out and beat everybody.
You know?
Go out and beat everybody, and what happens, happens. But if you win, then you have nothing to worry about. We need to shoot the ball. We need to shoot it. I'm not a soccer aficionado.
Yeah, we'll preface this. NMU men's soccer coach Alex Vodovich, we'll have to have him on the podcast this summer, and we will talk about the men's national team and what is really wrong with them. But our takes right now are our takes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're going to have.
The ball. Shoot the ball. Shoot the ball, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to score goals to win.
What do they say during the Stanley Cup playoffs? Pucks on net.
Pucks on net.
Same thing in soccer, right? Same idea.
Same idea.
Kick the ball towards the net.
Also,
the really frustrating thing about Berhalter and the men's national team is he's supposed to be dynamite on the set pieces, and then you watch him with a couple free kicks in the first half yesterday. There's nothing working. There are offsides on one of them.
There's no dynamite there. There's, I don't know.
What are we doing?
It's coal. No diamonds. Coal.
I feel confident with Pulisic taking the free kicks, but
I think it needs
at
help.
a certain point you gotta get those to work, and then you watch Uruguay. Their one goal came off of a free kick. I mean, there was not a whole lot our goaltender could do.
Yeah.
He saves the header, and then it goes right back, and they're able to punch it in. But it's so frustrating because, you have a country that's like ready to root for its soccer team, especially on the men's side. The women's national team has been great our whole lives. We've watched them win World Cups and win these types of tournaments. We're trying to get excited about our men's national team, and there's just nothing to be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make this analogy. I think Captain America needs to call the Avengers, right? He needs some more, like you
Which
look.
would mean a new coach?
Yeah, right? Maybe? Yeah.
People seem to think they're not going to make a change.
Yeah. 7-1-6 in their last, 14 together?
Yeah.
You can't be one game over 500 and be Team USA. And like you said earlier, we were talking, they're not beating top 10 opponents.
Besides Mexico, I don't think they have under Greg Berhalter.
Yeah, and when you look at the World Cup, and I know the next one's a little bit away, but it depends on your draw.
No, it's 2 years away, it's here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Don't you want to win in front of your home fans?
Yeah, 2 years away here in the U.S. Depends on your draw, but if you can't beat top 10 opponents, doesn't matter where you get the draw.
That's the other thing. They didn't even need to do that to get out of the group stage of this tournament in the Copa America. They got a good draw, and they kind of blew it.
Yeah.
And they're going home. I can't imagine that feeling, coming into a tournament on your home turf. You start out in North Texas at Cowboy Stadium. Great, we got to win. And then, the Panama game was frustrating because Tim Weah gets, called off the field on a red card.
Yeah.
So you're playing with 10 men the rest of the way. That was early in the game, those first 20 minutes or so. And then you're going forward. There were some penalties and everything. That was a tough game to watch. It was a tough deal. The goaltender got hurt. Those things happen, and they were not able to overcome it. The referee last night, I don't know what was going on with that guy. But it came from whatever the World Soccer Federation.
He had a bad day.
And then did you see him not shake Pulisic's hand after the game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Moral of the story, USA should have won the game, but that was a little sketchy from that guy.
Yeah, no, it was. And it's just like, I feel like, and people will say, oh, well, they're young. That's right. They are young. They're also playing for Team USA, which means they are supposed to be these phenomenal athletes who are not producing. You play 98, 96 minutes of soccer, and I got to look up the stats. You get 3 shots on goal, 2 shots on goal.
Yeah, no. They had that one really good opportunity in the second half. Besides that.
And it's
like I mentioned, they come up empty on all the set pieces, the free kicks, corner kicks.
We got it.
What are we doing?
You got to find a way to score, even if it's just one. Even if you draw it, if you get a tie, you find a way to put one in. And you looked. There were some great sequences throughout the game, but then at the end of it, there'd be a disconnect. There'd be a through ball, or there'd be a pass. It's a great pass, but who are you passing to? Because there's nobody there, or somebody's not in the right place, or they're supposed to be there. I think
disconnect is a really good word to describe what we watched.
Yeah, the one really good chance that they had, and gosh, I forget his name, is wide open. Mm-hmm. And I get it. In soccer, when you're at that level, it's a millisecond decision. But instead of shooting it and it goes off a defender, you make one extra pass. He has a great look. You got to have that vision up. I think too, the longer that game went on, the more you could see it on just their presence, that they got antsy, and so it was
and then
trying
of
to make
course
something happen.
Once it was clear, what the result of the other game was between Panama and Bolivia,
Yeah.
that they needed to win outright and score 2 goals in the final, 10 minutes of regular time. And then they only added 6 minutes of stoppage time.
Which was wild to me.
Because you had the injuries, you had the discussions after the couple yellow cards.
Yeah, and I mean, that
Should have been more.
It should have been like 10.
And they
9,
didn't do
10.
the stoppage time on top of stoppage time either.
Yeah. I don't know what that referee was doing.
We're just 2 guys, not soccer analysts,
Yeah.
that want the U.S. men's national team to be
To
good,
win.
and they're not.
Yeah.
And it stinks because the World Cup's coming here.
Yeah.
We want to get excited, like I've said,
Yeah.
but there's
You wanna have
no reason to get excited.
You want to have a good showing when you're hosting the World Cup. I think that Captain America, I do love that nickname.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
think that we need to call the Avengers. Captain America needs some help. And if it's, a new head coach, if it's adding some other players, if it's changing the dynamic or the strategy, because you're not going to win a World Cup if you don't score.
Yeah, you're right. They are young, but at the same time, these guys were hyped up
Yeah.
as the next generation,
This is it.
the golden generation. I'm not throwing that term around because I made it up. People were calling this group the golden generation of U.S. soccer.
Yeah.
Far from it. Far from it.
We need a Hulk. That's what we need.
I think
We need
that's
bruiser.
not a bad idea.
We need a bruiser in there to do something. I'm going to lean on the side that they are going to turn it around for the World Cup. I don't know how. I don't know why.
With Greg Berhalter
No.
as their head coach?
No.
Okay.
No, I think that and nothing against him. I don't know the guy personally, but you're in their last 14.
It strikes me as one of those situations where it's just time. Step
It's
away.
time. Yeah, it's time. Yeah, in their
I know
last,
it's your second go-around and people wanted you there, but it's not working out, man.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's it's with anything, right? It's with anything, sports, athletics, right? It's all. At the end of the day, it's about results, and the results are not happening. So it's time for a new guy, a new gal to take charge.
New voice,
New
potentially.
voice.
Anyway,
It's time for Tony Stark.
yeah,
I'm just gonna keep making Avengers references because it's just.
I like it. But
that's my comparison.
at the end of the day, Team USA is out of the Copa America, doesn't even get out of the group stage.
So it's like, I mean, I'm still gonna watch, but who do you cheer for now?
Yeah, I'm not going to watch as closely as I was. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
Well, and what was crazy to me, I don't know the exact number, but you look at playing in Kansas City, that place, it wasn't sold out, but it was packed.
I think we got to do a better job in the World Cup. We can sell out Arrowhead.
Yeah, we got to
We
sell
can
out
get
Arrowhead.
80,000
Yeah,
people in there.
yeah. Buy your tickets. Go to the Kansas City.
As I said yesterday, I got to go to a World Cup game in 2
Yeah.
years.
Well, yeah.
They're all over again, just like this tournament, but the U.S. is out of it early. And that is going to do it for this edition of UP Power. We appreciate you watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or catching us live on the TV6 live stream. We'll be back again next week and over the course of the summer. Hope to get some more guests in here to talk about some of our local UP sports. So for Keegan Cooper, I'm Kevin McNulty. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.